It was just one moment, one loud crash, one scream, and then silence. That's how Uma's whole world ended. Just hours before the accident, Uma was skipping down the street, holding her daddy's hand and singing with her mama. The sun was shining, the birds were flying, and Uma's laughter was the brightest sound in the air. She was only 6 years old, full of joy, with two loving parents who called her their shining star. They bought her roasted corn from a woman by the roadside. Her daddy lifted her up high to see the clouds, and her mama fixed the blue ribbons in her curly hair. They didn't have much money, but they had love, and that made Uma feel like the happiest girl in the world. But love didn't stop the car that came speeding around the corner. It hit them hard. Glass broke. Tires screeched. A man shouted. And then everything faded away. When Uma opened her eyes, she was lying in a hospital bed, her small arms covered in scratches and bruises. But she didn't feel the pain. She only felt the emptiness. Her parents were gone. Forever. A kind nurse told her they tried to save a little boy who had run into the street. They pushed him out of the way. That was how they died. The boy lived. Uma didn't understand. She didn't even cry. She just stared at the ceiling and waited for someone to come take her home. No one did. The days turned into months. Uma was moved from one shelter to another. Some were cold and full of other children with sad faces. Others were loud and scary. Some nights, she cried into a pillow, holding the blue ribbon her mama had tied into her hair. Then one day, Uma just left. She didn't tell anyone. She walked out of the gate barefoot, holding a plastic bag with a dry loaf of bread and the ribbon. She walked until the city became bigger, louder, and crueler. She slept under bridges, by the gutters, or behind big shops. She ate leftover food from bins. Sometimes people gave her money or snacks, but most walked past her like she was invisible. Still, Uma smiled at the sun each morning. Her mama once said, "Even the darkest night must give way to light." Uma believed that, even when her stomach growled and her feet ached. But one night, something strange happened. It was quiet. The streets were empty. Uma had not eaten all day. Her arms were weak and her lips were dry. She sat on the cold floor, hugging herself and staring at the moon. That was when the old woman appeared. She had gray hair tied in a scarf, a long dress that swept the ground, and a basket full of food. She looked at Uma and smiled gently. "You look hungry, child," she said. Uma nodded. She was too tired to speak. The woman gave her warm jollof rice with spicy chicken and cool water. Uma's eyes widened. It smelled like home. "Why are you helping me?" Uma asked, her voice shaking. "Because I was once like you," the woman whispered. Uma ate, bite after bite. She didn't even care when her belly started to feel full. It was so good. Too good. But then her head began to spin. Her arms felt heavy. Her eyes started to close. "Sleep now, my dear," the woman said, her voice sounding far away. And everything went dark. Uma woke up screaming. She wasn't outside anymore. She wasn't even in a room. She was inside a dimly lit shrine. The air smelled of smoke and something sour. Candles burned around her. Strange symbols were drawn on the walls in red. And she wasn't alone. Other girls, maybe 10 or 12, were lying near her. All of them looked around Uma's age. All of them unconscious. Some had torn clothes. Some looked like they had been taken from their homes. Uma was tied to a wooden post. Her hands were sore. Her heart pounded so hard it hurt. Then she heard footsteps. A man in dark robes entered the room, his eyes cold and empty. "The spirits must choose," he said, looking at Uma. "Some stay. Some are released." Uma didn't know what he meant. She cried. She called for her mama and papa. No one came. The man looked at her again and frowned. Then he turned away and said, "This one is rejected. Weak soul." another voice said. Then we throw her into the forest. Uma didn't understand, but she was too scared to ask. Later that night, they dragged her outside. She didn't fight. She couldn't. Her legs were numb, her arms sore, her belly still aching from the food. They left her at the edge of a dark forest, thinking she would never survive. But Uma did. She crawled. She walked. She ran. Through mud, thorns, and shadows that whispered her name. Owls hooted. Insects buzzed. At one point, she heard something breathing behind her. She didn't stop. Her body was broken, but her heart still held a spark of hope. Just one spark. Her mama had once told her, if you can take one more step, then you're not done yet. So she took one more step. And then another. And another. Dawn, Uma stumbled out of the forest and gasped. She was no longer in the slums or near the shrine. In front of her stood a place she had only seen in magazines. Clean roads. Fancy cars. Glass buildings that sparkled. Shops that looked like palaces. And in the middle of it all stood a giant boutique, covered in gold letters that read, Madame Kadu's World of Beauty. Uma blinked. Her dress was torn. Her face was dirty. But she stepped forward. Maybe, just maybe, this was the light after all the darkness. Maybe someone kind lived there. Maybe her story was about to change. She was wrong. So very wrong. The boutique looked like it was made of magic. Golden doors. Bright lights. Mannequins dressed in sparkling gowns. Everything shimmered like stars. Uma had never seen anything so beautiful. For a moment, she forgot about the forest, the shrine, and the pain in her legs. As she stood staring, the door opened with a soft chime. A tall woman stepped out. Her heels clicked on the smooth floor. Her hair was shiny and black like wet silk. Her eyes were lined with gold, and her lips were as red as fire. She looked like a queen. She looked down at Uma with surprise, then smiled kindly. "Oh, dear child, are you lost?" the woman asked in a sweet voice. Uma swallowed and nodded. "I ran away. I need help." The woman knelt beside her, gently brushing hair from Uma's face. "You poor thing," she said softly. "Come inside, my darling. Let me take care of you." Uma hesitated, but the woman's hands were warm and her voice was like honey. So she followed her in. Inside the boutique was even more magical. Shiny floors. Soft music. Dresses hanging like clouds. Uma stared in awe. She'd never even dreamed of touching clothes like these, let alone wearing them. The woman led her to a pink velvet chair and brought her a tray of fresh fruits and cookies. "What's your name?" the woman asked. "Uma," she said, still looking around. "I'm Madame Kadu," the woman said. "You're safe now." Those words made Uma relax for the first time in days. Safe. Warm. Wanted. Madame Kadu gave her a warm bath, clean clothes, and even brushed her hair gently. "You have a pretty face," she said. "Would you like to try on something special?" Uma's eyes lit up. "Really?" Madame Kadu smiled. "Yes. You'll look like a princess." She brought out a soft blue gown with silver flowers stitched on the edges. Uma touched it and gasped. It was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. She wore it. Fit perfectly. "Look in the mirror," Madame Kadu said. Uma turned. And for the first time in years, she smiled at her reflection. She felt like her old self again. But then, Madame Kadu took out a tiny bottle. "Now, just one more thing," she said sweetly. She dabbed a drop of clear liquid on Uma's neck. "It will help you rest," she whispered. The smile faded from Uma's face. Her legs trembled. The room spun. Everything turned dark again. When Uma opened her eyes, she was standing. But she couldn't move. Her body was stiff. Her eyes wide open. She could see the boutique in front of her. Customers were walking in. Some stopped to look at her. Some even pointed. "She looks so real," one woman said. "She's stunning," another whispered. Uma tried to scream, but no sound came out. She was frozen. A mannequin. Behind glass. But inside she was still awake. At night the lights turned off. And the whispers began. Soft voices filled the room. Not from the outside, but from within the other mannequins. "Another one," someone whispered. "She's new," another said. Uma's eyes twitched. From the corner of her eye, she saw one mannequin's finger move. Another blinked slowly. One even turned her head slightly. "We're not dead," a voice said beside her. "Just cursed." Uma's mind raced. What was happening? "I'm Nick," the voice said. "I was taken from the market. I grew up in the streets." "I'm Ifoma," another whispered. "My father sold me to pay a debt." "I'm Victoria," came a voice from the back. "I came from a rich home, but a man tricked me. I thought he loved me." "We were all lured here," said Nick. "Madame Kadi uses dark magic. She traps girls and turns them into mannequins. Forever." Uma felt like her heart had stopped. She was not dreaming. She was living a nightmare. But something was different. That night, while the others stayed still, a tear rolled down Uma's cheek. The mannequins gasped softly. "She cried," whispered Ifoma. "She's not fully taken," Nick said. "Her soul is still fighting." And it was true. Somehow, Uma's soul hadn't given up. Even though her body was stiff, something inside her still burned bright. Over the next few nights, the other mannequins watched her carefully. Slowly, her finger twitched. Then her toe. Her lips quivered one night, as if trying to speak. "She could break the curse," Victoria said. "She could free us," whispered Ifoma, full of hope. But someone else noticed. Madame Kadu came early one morning. She walked past the other mannequins, but stopped right in front of Uma. She narrowed her eyes. "Interesting," she muttered. "You moved, didn't you?" Uma remained still. But her heart was beating fast. Madame Kadu leaned closer and touched Uma's cheek. "It's always the ones with strong hearts," she said. "But no matter. I'll take care of you tonight." She turned and walked away. Uma's heart froze. Tonight? What did she mean? Would she destroy her? That evening, the boutique was full of customers. A man pointed at Uma and said, "She blinked." "I swear I saw it." His wife laughed. "It's just a smart mannequin. Maybe it's from China." Madame Kadu smiled tightly. "She's top of the line," she lied. But inside, she was panicking. She knew Uma wasn't from China. She knew she was losing control. So she made a call. "Chimi," she said into her phone. "Come tonight. We must end this." Chimi was her bodyguard. He was big, silent, dangerous. That night, he arrived quietly and walked into the display room. The other mannequins watched in horror. He held a small silver syringe. He walked up to Uma, and he paused. He looked at her face, really looked. Then something strange happened. His eyes filled with tears. Chimi dropped the syringe. He whispered, "I know you." Uma blinked. He stepped back, shaking. Your parents, they died saving me," he said. The other mannequins stirred. "What?" Nick whispered. "I was the boy. The one who ran into the street," Chimi said. "I survived. They didn't. And now she has you." He fell to his knees. "I can't let this happen." "Not again." He picked up another syringe from his pocket and injected Uma with it. Not the poison Madame Kadi gave him, but something else. Uma felt her chest loosen. Her fingers wiggled. Her legs bent slightly. She could breathe. Chimi grabbed her hand. We have to go. Now. They ran. Through the back door. Down the alley. Past the sleeping guards. Uma ran with her whole body trembling. But she was free. Free at last. Chimi took her to a police station. They didn't believe her at first. A mannequin? A cursed boutique? But when Uma cried and told them everything with her broken voice, one officer said, I believe her. He saw the fear in her eyes. The pain. The truth. Police surrounded the boutique the next morning. They kicked down the doors. They searched the hidden rooms. They found the ritual tools, the syringes, the spell books, and most of all they found the girls. Dozens of them, all standing in glass cases, still alive. Madame Kadu tried to run, but she was caught. Her golden smile finally cracked. Madame Kadu's screams echoed through the boutique as they dragged her away in silver handcuffs. Her heels scratched against the shiny floor that once carried her like royalty. Her red lipstick had faded. Her hair was messy. She no longer looked powerful. She looked like what she really was. Empty. Ugly. Rotten. Uma watched from the police van, her face pressed against the window, her fingers trembling. She didn't feel proud. She didn't feel brave. She just felt tired. The other girls were removed from the display windows one by one. Nick. Ifoma. Victoria. Girls with eyes like hers. Eyes that had seen too much. Too soon. Some screamed. Some passed out. Some couldn't speak at all. Their souls had been silent too long. No one knew how to hold them. No one knew how to undo what had been done. They were taken to a quiet hospital in the hills. Place with white walls, soft beds, and voices that didn't shout. Uma stayed there too. Doctors asked her questions. Therapists wanted her to open up. But she said very little. Sometimes she stared at her hands for hours, wondering how they had once been so frozen. Other times, she woke up at night with a scream stuck in her throat, certain she was still behind the glass. Chimi was arrested. He didn't run. He gave the police every name, every address, every secret tunnel Madame Kadu had used. He cried during the interviews, shaking from guilt, haunted by what he'd been part of. Some of the officers wanted him to rot in prison, but others saw the truth. Without him, Uma and the others would still be trapped. Eventually, the court gave him mercy. Not because he deserved it, but because he broke the chain. The story made it to the news. Not the full story, just the parts people could handle. They called it the boutique nightmare. Reporters used big words like ritual trafficking, underground rings, and urban horror. People gasped. They cried. They posted about it for a few days. Then they moved on. But Uma didn't. Uma was given a new home by the government. A real bed. A school uniform. A toothbrush with her name on it. The woman who cared for her was kind and quiet. She never asked Uma to smile. At school, the other kids called her the mannequin girl. Some were curious. Some were scared. A few were cruel. One girl asked if Uma's skin was still made of plastic. Uma didn't answer. She just turned away. One day, while walking past a store window, Uma caught her reflection. She froze. Her breath caught in her throat. Her body was moving freely. Her eyes were alive. She wasn't a mannequin anymore. But sometimes she still felt like one. Like her skin wasn't hers. Like her voice didn't belong to her. Like she could shatter at any moment. Nick ran away from the shelter 2 months later. No one knew where she went. Foma stopped talking. Not because she couldn't, but because silence felt safer. Toria started drawing, and all her pictures were of windows. Dark ones, with girls inside. Uma kept the blue ribbon from her mother. Sat in a box under her bed. She touched it once in a while but never tied it in her hair. That version of herself was gone. One rainy evening, Uma sat by her window and looked at the sky. Thunder rolled over the rooftops. Raindrops slid down the glass like tears. She closed her eyes and whispered, "I still remember." No one answered. And that was okay. She didn't need the world to understand. 'Cause she had survived something it could never explain. Not in stories. Not in speeches. Not in rescue posters. There are some things only the broken know. Some sounds only silence can carry. Some wounds only time can walk beside. So she sat there, in the stillness, in the truth, and let the darkness stay with her a while. If you have not subscribed to my channel, you might not hear my voice again, but if you are, then you are growing every day. Check my page for more interesting stories. Thanks for watching.